What should you as a human die for? For fame or for prestige? For glory or for honor? What is a human life worth? These are some of the questions that Godzilla Minus One seeks to answer. And so, you see, I just finished watching Godzilla Minus One in theaters, and holy shit was I in awe. Like, I absolutely love this movie, and it was this incredibly engaging movie that tackled a lot of interesting philosophical themes, including the aforementioned question about the meaning of a human life and what it means to live as opposed to die for the sake of your honor, as well as other random themes, such as what it means to be brave as opposed to be a coward, and what is a family actually made of. And so with this movie still being in theaters, I kinda just wanted to give my first impressions on this movie and talk about what I liked and disliked. And so let's start out with what I liked. And so, being a Godzilla movie, we have to talk about, well, Godzilla. And Godzilla was absolutely terrifying. Like, the opening scene alone was haunting. It was this absolute bloodbath with Godzilla just like destroying this battalion. He was like stomping all over them, crushing them beneath his feet. It was like brutal. He like chomped on some victims like a wolf just chomping on some bones. And this brutal like destruction continued throughout the movie. Like, oh my god, all the destruction that he creates for the movie is like awe-inspiring, for lack of a better word. But besides Godzilla, I thought it was really interesting because the humans were also incredibly well written. Like, usually I don't think I care at all about the humans in monster movies. Like, I don't think I can name a single character's name in any of the movies in the Monsters-verse. Like, I don't think I could have cared less about them. But in Godzilla Minus One, the humans were just as much the stars, if not more, than Godzilla. Like, the humans were incredibly relatable in Godzilla Minus One. Or, I guess understandable might be a better word. Like, I actually cared a lot about them and their struggles. I was like super invested in how they would confront the ghosts of their past. And I think the actors did like an incredible job portraying them. Like, the actors for Shikishima and Noriko, oh my god, they were so good. And yeah, I think these actors helped like portray their characters in a great way, and it helped push the narrative. And I think the narrative was absolutely fantastic. Like, I was incredibly invested in Shikishima's journey. It was this like incredible like coming of age story for him, and it followed how he like struggled with how he is, you know, alive in spite of not fulfilling his honor and duty to die as a kamikaze pilot. Like, the movie details Shikishima's inner struggle, on how he feels that his quote-unquote war isn't over yet, and how he isn't able to find peace within himself, and this is such a compelling narrative. And so yeah, this film deals a lot with themes of like survivor's guilt and the meaning of honor, and there's just so much to unpack with Shikishima's inner demons antagonizing him almost as much as Godzilla does, if not even more. And so, without a doubt, this movie is centered on the topic of war and about the destruction caused by war. And I think this is a super interesting theme that some of the recent Godzilla movies haven't been as focused on. I just want to also talk about the overall atmosphere of the movie. Like, the movie was incredibly well directed, and I feel like every part of the movie was shot in a way that contributed to this fantastic atmosphere. Like, there's this epic theme for the last battle, where there's like this choir singing in the background, with an ensemble of violins playing as Shikishima heads into battle, and oh my god, dude, it's so hard to do it justice without spoiling, but trust me, it was absolutely chilling. And the cinematography and effects were also pretty cool, and like, you wouldn't be able to know that this movie only cost $15 million to make if no one told you. Like, the effects were amazing. And like, visually, Godzilla was also pretty intimidating. Except he was a little stiff at times, but $15 million budget, so you can excuse him a bit. But yeah, Godzilla was actually like incredibly well, I guess, animated, well, like, I don't know, graphically designed. And so yeah, I think these are a lot of the things I liked, and so I just want to move on to the complaints that I had. And I only had a few minor complaints. The first being that like, Godzilla was so cool that it took a little time for me to care about the main characters and to warm up to them and to be invested in them. Like, in the very beginning, it felt like two very, like, disjunct and separate movies. Like, it started off as, you know, a monster movie with Godzilla doing a little terrorize and rampage and, you know, doing his thing, but after the initial scene, Godzilla wasn't really addressed for a while, and it kind of felt like a family drama. But eventually these two storylines finally converged, and after it did, it didn't really feel disjointed anymore. And you began to understand how Godzilla is intertwined with Shikishima's coming-of-age story. And I also had a little bit of an issue with one thing that happened in the ending, but it's a pretty big spoiler, so I won't really talk about it, but I just didn't like what they did with one of the characters at the end. But overall, I think Godzilla Minus One is a fantastic film despite these minor complaints. Like, I think the director and cast did an incredible job creating this compelling narrative about life and its value even in times of war. And I highly recommend you all to watch it. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. The Warlock, signing off.